You're listening to the Jiu Jitsu Lou podcast, and I'm Lou Temlett. I'm guessing you're having a good day because either you've been on the mats, considering getting on the mats, or maybe you're wanting to continue meeting amazing new people. I'm so happy you're here listening or watching this episode. Please don't tap out before the end. When you've had a fire burning inside of you, start training Jiu Jitsu. I'd like to welcome Christle Guevarra to my podcast. Hi, Christle. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Fantastic, thank you. And I'm so grateful to have you on this episode chatting. We've been stalking each other's Instagram for a while. And I'm loving your jiu-jitsu, loving your 90s music and various other things that we will be talking about.
Thank you so much for having me. Love it. I'm so happy that I'm not the only one who just feels like, this old person sharing constantly, Gen X, like millennial, throwbacks, because that's my new favorite Instagram accounts are all these like flashback clips of songs that I listened to, probably had no business listening to growing up, but such is life.
It's amazing. It's when they're played on the radio or, you find a track on Apple Music and you play and then you're singing along, living your best life. And that's where we've got to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so Christle, it is amazing to have you here. We are going to start with your jiu-jitsu journey and probably dip back in through the episode.
Okay.
But you're a white belt. Tell me why you started training jiu-jitsu.
Oh man, it was on the back burner for a really long time. I remember even when I was just getting started in my own like fitness journey, and I was still very much a car forum girl. I drove a Subaru. I used to take it to the track, and through that kind of cohort of people, I met a girl who's now black belt and awesome. Oh my gosh, Patty's last name is slipping my mind. She was like, you should try it. It's really awesome. Like you get to beat people up. And the whole beating people up thing really resonated with me. But with, I was also applying to medical school and I said, I only have time for one other thing. And that other thing is going to be powerlifting. So kind of put it away for, a decade. And then, the COVID happened. I graduated from medical training and I was like, all right, well, the thing I wanted to do 10 years ago is now finally up for grabs. So let's just give it a shot. So.
Amazing. So was it your friend Patty that mentioned jiu-jitsu in the first place? And then it just kind of is tinkering along for the last 10 years?
Yeah, she had a t-shirt. It was like Just Roll, something along those lines. So I think that was the very earliest, like I realized that it was a thing and it was a sport and women can get into it and it's really awesome. But I didn't, at the time I was like, I can only do so many things. So.
Okay. No, that's fantastic. But you mentioned having a Subaru. I was a bit of a girl racer. We didn't know this about each other. What color was your Subaru?
It was silver, and I was torn because I really loved the World Rally Blue color, but I figured the silver was going to be a little bit more low key. Turns out it wasn't. When I lived in Chicago, the cops would run my plates. They would get right behind you and like kind of go at your pace and like follow you for, 10 minutes and then realize that like I'm a safe driver. I don't street race and then be on their merry way. So it was silver. What color was yours?
Okay. I didn't have a Subaru. I had a Fiat Stilo Abarth, the kind of with the Scorpion logo on the back in the UK. And it was very fast. But mine was deep black purple. But I was also followed by the police, just in case I'd driven over the white line in the middle of the road after dropping some friends back, driving very, very safely. And they did stop me. And I said, they'd ask if I was drinking. It's like, I don't drink and drive. So they let me go on my way. Obviously when other things around you might drive a little bit faster because the 0 to 60 speed is rather exciting.
Oh my God, that's so awesome. Fun facts. Yeah. Loved taking the car out to the track.
Yeah.
Road America was probably the best track I'd been on ever. Would love to do it someday, but a little too much time, a little too much money, parts break. So,
Okay, so now our passion is training
yeah.
jiu-jitsu, and I think there's even more excitement than driving a fast car in some elements of jiu-jitsu. Tell
Oh,
me what keeps you kind of, training now.
it's a puzzle game that never ends. There's always different bodies, different people, different belt ranks, different sizes and shapes.
Yeah.
And so you're having to do that all in real time, which is the same thing as, driving on the track. You're making calculated decisions under, XYZ, oh
Mhm.
God, dare I say constraints? It's like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
um, and you're trying to make all these quick decisions and you're trying to be safe, but
Mm.
you also want to be effective because you
Yeah.
want to either, get into a position that will lead you to a submission
Mhm.
or, cross the finish line, first. So,
Yeah. I love that analogy. Maybe you didn't think coming on this episode we would be comparing driving fast cars to training jiu-jitsu, but we've done it.
yeah. Oh yeah, both of them has been when you're going 120 miles an hour. I don't know what that is in kilos. Or kilometers. I'm
No,
so sorry. I'm one of those.
we're still measuring miles in the UK.
Okay.
We kind of left the
Okay.
European kilometers per mile to one side.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think some of us would know where 120 is and may not ever get to 120 miles an hour.
I hope not, or at least if you're doing it on a track that's being monitored.
Yes.
So, of course,
Yes.
but yeah, just keeps me going.
Yeah.
And then also just the people off the mat. Everybody has been, for the most part, really awesome, really supportive.
Yeah.
People will give you hard looks, and will be difficult on the mat, and then you can have a laugh afterwards. Like there's
Yeah.
no ego attached to it. There's no, and that's a really awesome thing to see and be a part of.
Yes, it is. Now, you also mentioned powerlifting. Talk to me
Yeah.
about that, because that sounds like it's been the kind of previous 10 years whilst you haven't been able to train jiu-jitsu. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I feel like the powerlifting thing was sort of my gateway into lifting. I really enjoyed that aspect of trying to focus on something other than my scale weight or
Yeah.
what I looked like. And so that really served me for a long time. Additionally, I didn't need to I didn't have to show up to a class. I could just go into the gym whenever I wanted.
Yeah.
And so that also works well when you're a physician, a resident physician, and your time is, of the essence. So trying to make a class at a certain time just would have not worked. It just would have been a non-starter.
Yeah.
So I really liked that for a long time. And I think towards, I think my last meet was in 2018, and I kind of just like my joints kept really aching to, something that like the recovery, just, normal recovery just couldn't handle, couldn't take care of. And I was like, maybe there's something else. So that's when I decided to sort of switch my focus and for a while just do bodybuilding style training. So higher reps, I'm not doing heavy singles anymore. And at least my joints have been felt a lot nicer than previous. I don't know. It's a different kind of beating up than jujitsu can be if you let it. Yeah. Cause I realize when I talk about joints, getting my joints beat up, jujitsu is, you're literally trying to beat up somebody else's joints. So,
yes. Now, I find it really interesting that you say that, doing powerlifting and kind of being there, that there's no judgment on your size, how you show up. You can do it at your pace and whenever you want to kind of fit into your lifestyle. How has your kind of fitness journey been impacted by the way you see yourself, or maybe by the way other people see you, and just the flexibility around keeping fit?
Yeah, I would be very much lying if I said that, my staying fit is key to my mental and psychological well-being as well as my physical well-being. And um, it was very hard for me in the earlier days when I was struggling with my weight, and I've struggled with it multiple points in my career, um, to really accept myself,
Yeah.
for my own state, because not only was I just not feeling well, I wasn't sleeping well. I was in a lot of just chronic pain. My feet would hurt and ache. I couldn't walk. At one point, I couldn't actually at various points.
Mm.
I'm 4'11". I think my highest, has been about 200 pounds, somewhere around 90 kilos,
Yeah.
if I do the math right. The, you know, I just, I couldn't move. Like I really, like, walking a block was a challenge for me, like at a normal pace. And
Yeah.
so it's hard to be happy or be pleasant when you are, chronically underslept,
Yeah.
you're in a lot of pain. And so I definitely felt like, and am somebody who wears my emotions on my face. You can,
Yeah.
for better or for worse. I have been, my face will tell you everything you need to know. And so I definitely projected a lot of that out into the world.
Yeah.
I'm in a lot of pain. I'm not feeling great. And so I always struggle with how much of that is me and how
Yeah.
much of that is just this physical appearance, versus like, I wouldn't be doing these types of podcasts if I didn't feel, I wouldn't be telling my story. I wouldn't be sharing myself because I was so afraid
Yeah.
of what people would say to me, or heaven forbid, somebody says something mean to me. And now it's like, yes, people are going to say, there's going to be somebody out there that doesn't like me, or, says something mean to me on the internet.
Yeah.
And I don't let that bother me, because they're not anybody in my life worth, whose opinion I really care about.
Yeah. No, Christle, thank you for sharing that. And I think some of us that have been overweight and felt insecurities, whether,
Yeah.
it's been pain or just showing up in the world,
Yeah.
it's been kind of an issue for us. And I think, taking those steps to be more conscious, to be more minded, to look after our bodies and our minds. Jiu-jitsu certainly is given that to me. But part of our conversation today is going to be talking about GLP-1s. Now, both of us have some connection in this. And I can equally resonate with being overweight, in kind of US terms, being around 280 pounds, around 20 stone, in my kind of 20s, and feeling like everything was fine. So my story is very much around pretending that everything's fine and kind of putting on a smile, because that covers everything up. But actually trying to find now in our kind of 40s that inner happiness that is just, it can shine from the inside rather than pretend to be a fake face of life. But, through recent months, I've been using GLP-1s, Minjaro, which has given me incredible weight loss. But equally, you using those drugs. Let's talk a bit about that.
Yeah. It was, I guess we should rewind it a little bit. I have GLP-1 medications they're not the first medication that I had tried and failed. I have tried, I had been prescribed off-label a couple of other medications. One is an antidepressant, anti-anxiety medication. Another one is used for headaches. And so, the side effect profile was terrible, and two, it just didn't work. I was still hungry all the time, and it was no matter how clean I ate, no matter how, perfect my meals were, no matter how much water I drank in between bites, no matter how many times I, chewed and made sure to chew 30 times before I swallowed, no matter how much mindfulness or journaling, about my feelings or therapy. I was just hungry all the time. Let's just food noise is what people call it. Food noise was at an 11, 24/7, and nothing, except for, high amounts of caloric food could handle that. My physician at the time recommended the GLP-1s in 2020. And at that time, I actually said no. So I said no for about 1.5 to 2 years.
Yep.
One, because there are a couple of reasons. One, the needle thing really kind of, it's like that's a real commitment to to medication. That a pill just, there seemed to be part of that. And a lot of it was just ego, was just plain ego. Maybe if I tried harder, maybe if I just did better, I could, overcome this. When, looking back on my life, I'm in my 40s now. And how long are you going to wait until you decide, that you're going to give this a go? So January of 2022 was when I started Ozempic, and it felt like, I remember looking at Mike, my husband, and I was just like, oh, this is what thin people must feel like, where you can eat and have a conversation and not be so focused on your plate. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm full. And there's a couple of bites left over that you're just not going to lick the plate. Because you're just scraping the last bits of sauce or whatever it is on the plate, because I've done that. I 100% have done that. But you can just there's this calmness to eating that I didn't have before.
Yes. This episode is sponsored by INSEO Mental Performance. INSEO helps Brazilian Jiu Jitsu competitors develop their mental skills for peak performance. As a BJJ competitor, there are only 3 things you can train: your body, your skills, and your mind. And often it's the mind that holds us back from finding our best on the mats. This is where INSEO can help through one-to-one mental performance coaching. Head over to inseo.biz/BJJ to download your free mental skills for BJJ guide, including practical exercises and tips to help you find your best more often. This is the Jiu Jitsu Lou podcast with me, Lou Temlett, coming to you from the UK. One of the things that would really help this show grow is by you subscribing on whichever platform you're on: YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Amazon Music. If you could go and do that for me right now, I'd be forever grateful. And as always, go and check out the clips on YouTube and Instagram. Today, I'm having a conversation with Christle Guevarra. Christle, you mentioned about kind of scraping the plate and kind of wanting to feel full. As a child growing up, and maybe some other listeners and people watching this, there was lots of pressure not to leave anything on the plate as a child. My parents kind of grew up kind of with a much more Victorian attitude, rations during the war and lots of other things. And actually whatever we had was scarce and that we had to consume whatever there was, because it was a sign of not being grateful for what we were given. Yeah. But actually, over the years, not just that, but lots of other factors have kind of left a number of us feeling like we want to consume everything on the plate. A, it's probably really delicious. B, it's what we have available. And why shouldn't we? But I think, compounded all of those factors have kind of left maybe a generation of us over consuming, but without that awareness that our body may not need quite so much nutrients. And then kind of reflecting over the years, 20s, 30s, 40s, or maybe even later, that actually our physical being, we don't have so much capacity to do the things we really want to do, like train jiu-jitsu. How has your weight loss kind of helped or supported your jiu-jitsu journey? For me, it's been an incredible difference, but tell me about how it's impacted you.
Oh my gosh. It has been, it has been amazing in terms of my cardiovascular like tank. I used to gas out like just trying halfway into the single leg, like I have the leg and now I'm out of breath and now I can't finish this and I can't actually finish the takedown because I am exhausted.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, trying to even do simple drills like duck walks were very difficult. Everything was a lot slower.
Yeah.
Trying to learn how to do an arm bar and just trying to like shift your body, like just over 90 degrees, just kind of,
Yeah.
I remember having to do that into like steps because it like I physically couldn't move my legs and I have short legs to begin with. I already have a like awkward set of I have really short arms. I have really thick like quads and legs. And so
we're in the same boat there, Christle.
Yeah. And so it just has really helped in so many different ways that, and I think the biggest thing is just being able to survive on the mats a lot longer than when I started.
Yeah, I think I would absolutely agree. Whilst there was an element of determination for training jiu-jitsu, and you go, I'm just going to do this anyway, but the capacity we might have with weight loss is just kind of, the flexibility. I find you mentioned the arm bar and just kind of pulling that on, and the short leg thing. It's like triangles. I'm still working on triangles, Christle, because that's one of my areas, having short legs and, like you say, kind of thick quads. How can you do this? We have to work with our own bodies, but equally, whilst jiu-jitsu is for everyone, technically, there are, the kind of physical being that makes jiu-jitsu easier. Have you found, your jiu-jitsu easier throughout this time?
Ease, like has me learning the moves gotten easier with the weight loss or?
Yes. Let's go there.
Yeah. Sure. You had mentioned triangle, and I was actually just thinking about, I actually don't play a closed guard game because I physically couldn't get my legs into that position. And it actually wasn't until recently I was at Open Mat and there was a female who was about 130. And I think she got into my closed guard. Like I wrapped my legs right and I just started laughing because I was like, I'm never in this position and I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. And I just started cracking up. I'm like, this is so unfamiliar to me, but we'll just roll with it. And then I just transitioned into half guard and tried whatever little thing, white belt things I know. But I just, people, I guess that seems to be a very common thing, is learning closed guard attacks first. That seems to be a thing maybe, but I just couldn't do it. Physically just couldn't keep the legs closed. So
I like the fact that you shared that you just kind of cracked up laughing because a number of us that get into new moves for our body, you go, hold on, what's going on?
Oh man.
And we kind of surprise ourselves and we have to, whether it's a woman over 40 or anyone else, we have to kind of take a moment to go, I'm amazed at myself.
Shit. And she started laughing because she's like, oh, you're laughing and think this is hilarious too. Like, it lightens up the mood.
Yeah, exactly. And I think bringing that fun and energy of self-awareness and just fun to the mats is really important as well.
Oh yeah. It would just be so boring if everybody was serious all the time. Even when I'm getting my butt whooped, and trying to make cracks unless somebody's like, I have a competition, I need, X, Y, and Z, and like this is serious. It's jokes all the way down.
I am so pleased. There will be so many of us that are in this place. There is no time for the seriousness. Really, there isn't. Obviously, if it's a respectable individual that you're fighting and they're literally holding their, kind of fight face, maybe you can have a little smile to yourself afterwards rather than break the energy. But maybe breaking the energy mid-flow is good too.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm all about like when it's open mat and you're kind of just horsing around, like there's no, I'm just not into the like.
Okay, now have you experienced the seriousness in competition? Because you've competed a couple of times at white belt already, haven't you?
Yeah, I've competed twice this year. So that was my goal, was to compete. So checked that off. It's a completely different thing. And it's an experience that like nothing at, the gym can prepare you for, because you just have to go through it in order to experience the crowd, the weigh-in, it's cold at most of these places, and then it gets really hot because the audience, all the bodies in there warm up the entire place. Heaven forbid the smell, but hopefully they don't allow people who smell to compete. But I didn't realize how far the adrenaline dump went until I actually, signed myself up and made the commitment to do it. So, I mean, it's an amazing experience. I've tried to convince, I know that there were one or two other females who are over the age of 40 who are like, I don't know, like I'm kind of thinking about it. I'm like, you should just do it. Like if anything, it'll just give you that experience just to say you did it. If it's not for you, you can always stop. But I think trying something at least once is worthwhile.
Yeah. And especially, being over 40, what have you got to lose? We've got to try these things and have an open mind just to go, well, let's just see what happens. And actually, it's quite exciting. Maybe, I know some people's training schedule becomes more intense. With my first competitions, I didn't really know what a training camp or I've since spoken with so many amazing pro athletes, and I go, training camp? What's that?
Like a sleepaway camp where you go, summer camp.
It's not that, clearly. But what would you advise other women or other guys training for their first competition in their 40s? What preparation would you recommend, or what's worked for you?
That is a great question. I'm glad I had the second competition under my belt, so I can at least speak to my own experience. I think the difference between competition 1 and 2 was I do train at home mostly. I have a coach. I have somebody who also is remote who's helping to craft sort of a game plan.
Yeah.
And so after the first competition, I realized that I just needed to get more experience with more bodies on the mat. So I started for the next 4 to 6 weeks, made it a concerted effort to attend more open mats with more bodies. And anybody who wanted to roll, I was, let's do it. Let's kind of just see where this goes. And as I got closer to the competition, I was very much like, I have a comp coming up. I'm going to need some hard rolls. There was one girl, Carly, who was, out of Scorpion, who's really awesome, and was specifically, she knew I was, kind of had the Arnold coming up, and was like, how can I be really helpful? How can I make this role a really beneficial for you? And I just I was so blown away by that, the fact that she offered and was really, anything I needed, whatever it was that I was working on at the time, she was able to deliver because I think she's a brown belt. So it was, I also trained with another brown belt female, Delia, and she's been really awesome as well. So she has been with me since the very beginning. So she has been with me throughout my journey when I was a little bit heavier and struggling a lot to just make it through a 3-minute positional spar. So, but yeah, the biggest things is just for me getting experience with more bodies, and that was it.
Yeah.
So
I know a number of women, certainly in the UK, struggle to have matchups for different competitions, and actually the latest kind of thinking is to just register. Get your details on Smooth Comp, which is a system we use in the UK, and just see who else is out there. Because if we're not putting our names into these things, we're not going to know that there are other women wanting to compete in our kind of categories. Do you compete at Masters? Are you Masters 3? Is that right? Or Masters 2? Or do you not know? Masters.
I have not competed in the IBJJF yet. So with Grappling Industries, it's either Masters is 30 and up, and I guess for females we don't have a senior category, but the men have Masters is over 30, and then seniors are over 40. So hopefully.
I'm not taking that one. I'm not taking seniors. No.
I do compete as a I competed at the Arnold as a Masters athlete, and then in the my very first comp, I actually competed in the adult. So my very first match ever was with a 19-year-old, and I also competed in the absolute because why not? There's with Grappling Industries, there's nothing to lose, and I also didn't read the rules the first time around, and then I was like, oh, this is actually fine. I read all the submissions that you can and cannot do. I forgot about the section where it's like, if you sign up for the absolute, it's they're not going to, for nogi, they don't separate it out by belt, and it's just brown or black rules go. So it was like this 19-year-old purple belt who like just double legged me to the ground in the first 10 seconds. I was like, yep, this is great. Like I this is where I need to be. It was awesome. I wanted more of it.
Good. Okay. Well, you get a medal for being a white belt in the absolute against a purple belt 19-year-old that's half your age, Christle. I love it.
Oh man,
I love it. So, competing, any more competitions for the rest of the year or for your kind of future?
Probably looking at more the end of the year. So I will be taking some time off for elective surgery. So that's going to take a little bit of time, and then to come back, after that. So we'll see. Late this year, early next year might be a possibility. I like to set timelines that are just way longer than need to be, and then be pleasantly surprised. Like if, fall comes around and I'm like, I'm ready to go, then so be it. But,
I like that. The kind of mindset of setting goals that are a little bit further out. Often, there's a raft of competitions around this time of year. You go, okay, I'll kind of put in for May. This episode is going to be out in May. But, the kind of time frame may be only a couple of months. But I like the idea of kind of spanning out 6 months or even 12 months to get yourself mentally prepared for fighting someone half your age.
Yeah, and I don't do this professionally, so I'm not, I'm a recreational athlete. I need to be, healthy for my other job, like the job that actually pays me money. So this is a really fun hobby, and and that's totally cool. So I, have the ability and privilege to kind of, I don't have to take fights to like make money, which is a cool thing.
Yeah, I think that's incredibly a good thing. We all make our money in different ways, and usually not yet on the jiu-jitsu mats, but there's still time. We've got
Yeah.
inspirational women in their 70s still fighting, still ranked number one. There's time. We've got another 40 years yet, Christle.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, let's talk a little bit more about GLP-1s for those that don't understand what GLP-1 is, because there will be a demographic of individuals listening or watching that don't know what that stands for or what it means. So let's kind of revisit.
Glucagon-like peptide 1 is a hormone that we produce, the intestines, the particular cells in our intestines produce. So we eat food, and the food travels, and the intestinal cells signal that, like, hey, there are nutrients coming. Like, let's get that insulin ready so we can, make use of the glucose that's coming out. And so it's, the hormone is produced, insulin is secreted. And the thing about GLP-1, our native hormone that we produce in our bodies, is that it has a very short half-life. So it only lasts about 3 to 5 minutes, because there's another enzyme that we naturally produce that comes in and inactivates it, completely destroys it. So it's useless. So these GLP-1 agonists are molecules that affect the receptor. So they will cause the same effect as the GLP-1 hormone. However, they are able to dodge this enzyme that we naturally produce in our bodies. So this feeling of fullness, this feeling of satiety, this insulin response kind of stays around longer. And so for a long time, researchers have used that as sort of a diabetes medication target to help with glucose control. And then they started to notice that there was this weight loss effect that also started happening as well. This has happened, for since the first set of GLP-1 agonists. The first one was FDA approved in 2005, but it really wasn't until semaglutide or Ozempic, Wegovy had come out that the weight loss effects itself were just so significant that people really started to look at this as oh wow, here is a weight loss. Not to mention the social media was a thing, was a much bigger thing nowadays compared to even back in 2014 when Saxenda was the first GLP-1 agonist that was actually approved for weight management. So like Ozempic, Mounjaro, the research has been around for a while. So I know people are like, what is this new thing that just came out? All the celebrities are doing it. The research has been going on since, they've been trying to target this since the 90s. So
around the time of music that we were listening to.
Oh, yes, exactly.
Well, coincidence, things seem to have taken around 20, maybe 30 years to happen in life. There's a real benefit for using GLP-1s just to feel more complete in ourselves. I've noticed I cooked some nice scrambled eggs on some granary toast this morning, which was delicious, but I could actually only consume about half of it, which, before using GLP-1s wasn't a thing. So it's really, for me, in meals, noticing that I don't need so much, where my kind of mind and body thinks it needs more, but actually it doesn't. So it's been really helpful for me to kind of guideline the consumption that my body actually needs rather than what I think I need. And that's been, for me, one of the kind of main aspects of all of this.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think there's also that. And then I think the other kind of myth that I didn't really realize until later in life is, people's caloric needs definitely differ, like the range. I guess one of the lies that, not lies, but like I thought that because I built a lot of muscle, or that my metabolic needs were going to be huge. Like I see people. I remember in the CrossFit space, when I used to follow a lot more CrossFit followers, that like, oh, I do CrossFit, I'm going to need like 3,000 calories to like, and then I've got a 6-pack. And so, doing jujitsu, how many times a week, and I was lifting how many times a week, and I've already built this base of muscle. And to realize that in order for me to stay at, 411 and like maybe 140, 145 is about 1,600 calories still. Like I know I'm short, but like I'm not, petite. Like I'm not like 110 pounds, but like I know people who are smaller than me who eat that much more. And so I don't have an answer for that. Like, it's just, if I have a very high food drive and my caloric needs are low, man, I really it's a hard one to deal with.
Yes. And we're not advising anything. This is, go and do your own research. I spent a lot of time researching and trying to kind of weigh up all of the kind of possibilities or downsides and kind of positives on the back of it. And I think that's, there's a lot of research out there. Go and do your own stuff. I'm sure we can signpost you to some helpful articles, but it's something to consider. And sounds like for both of us, it's improved our guard game.
I actually have one. I can actually maybe think about it now. We'll see. It's the jury's still out, but at least now I can actually, wow.
Okay, we will leave it there. Our guard games are up for discussion. Christle, how can people follow your journey if they're not already?
I'm on Instagram, dr.christle, CHRISTLE, is mostly where I post majority of my content. So it's probably a good place to start.
Fantastic. Great stuff. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Do keep in touch. I will be following your stories with great delight, listening out for those 90s tracks. And if anyone else, was around in the 90s listening to cool music, Dr. Christle always shares epic tunes.
Thank you so much for having me.
You are welcome. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you for telling your friends about this show. And as soon as this episode ends, I'd really appreciate you dropping the show a rating and a review. Thanks again for listening. Catch you on the next episode of the Jiu Jitsu Loop podcast.